E-commerce is the one industry that has not been absolutely dominated by AI. Well, except for a few thousand software as a service products that all are there to help you with shipping and returns, and well, even the e-commerce platform themselves and content, you name it, they're here to help. But the AI term is so vague that it feels more like a silver bullet than actual technology. In episode 25 of the Ecom Buzz, I'm going to open up the AI Pandora's box. You're going to understand what really is AI and ultimately the features that actually do comprise AI collectively. The result for you of watching this video is asking better questions of vendors, better integration into your needs, and never being duped by the AI silver bullet.
It writes content, fixes returns, predicts churn, and get this, makes coffee.
Do you have a demo?
No.
Why is it that AI and e-commerce, you might argue, seems so far behind all these other industries? We have phenomenal contract writing capabilities. It's amazing at writing code, and it's even promising for ad campaigns. Watch the latest Adobe seminars. Everything but for e-commerce and online selling. I've been on a journey to understand how AI can actually fit better into e-commerce and really superpower it and make it something that, well, it's been lagging a bit behind. And since you opened this video, I get to take you along for the ride as well. What you're going to see is AI, as we collectively call it, is simply three different technologies that when combined together are incredibly powerful and will be even more powerful in this e-commerce context as you learn how they work. Number one is generative AI. Number two is machine learning. And number three is automation. And when used together, this is an incredible combination. If you're ready, let's jump in. And we're going to start by talking about generative AI. Generative AI, or GenAI as you often hear it called, is literally ChatGPT or Claude AI or Google Gemini, a plethora of different options for actually creating content. Oversimplified, it takes your input, converts it into numbers or vectors, and compares it with this massive training database of also numbers or vectors, and it formulates a output or response from that. Now, this is ridiculously oversimplified, and it is far more complex than this. But that's the general idea. This generative AI is really valuable for research, content generation, and summarization of content. For example, in the e-commerce space, you could write a customized abandoned cart email. You can parse obtuse product descriptions and format that data in a way that actually makes sense going into attributes, which enables a very powerful search experience. You can summarize reviews. You can use those summarized reviews to compare different products. You can even translate content. I even wired up a chat tool where customers can interact with the products and better understand the products for their given use case. This is a small subset of what is available today that you can do with some extra dose of creativity. But as important as it is to know what AI does and how amazing it is, of course, what doesn't it do is probably just as important, or you could argue it's even more important.
And I knew exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea what to do.
I have 6 limitations that I think you will find insightful, again, to target your expectations of the platform. Number one, generative AI does not understand customers. It's only as smart or as capable as you make it to be. Thus, you want to consider it as a supplement to your already data collection efforts. So if you are understanding what customers are interested in, great. You can feed that in a sentence format into ChatGPT, for example, and ask it to write an abandoned cart email. Number two, generative AI does not understand large subsets of data. In other words, it is no substitute for your business intelligence suite of tools. And you know, in e-commerce, we have big sets of data, thousands, maybe millions of rows. Generative AI does not understand how these rows and all this stuff works together. However, once you condense this information down, of course then, generative AI can summarize it and provide some interesting findings from it. Number 3, generative AI is only as good as the training data set that it was trained with. And neither you nor I have control in almost every context unless we're using something open source, our own machines, and that's for the really geeky nerd out levels. We don't have control over this data set. So our results can vary depending on the way that these models were trained. Number 4, generative AI is not connected to anything to kick it off or make it start running. In other words, it's like a tool in your toolbox. It's just sitting there waiting for you to pick up that hammer and to start using it. Number 5, generative AI is presenting some indications toward having limitations against high-risk industries, such as selling firearms or creating content around firearms, marijuana, any other high-risk industry like this. Whether it's political, liability motivations, they're seeming to shy away from working with these type of industries. Last but not least, most generative AI, I say most, is not secure and repurposes your prompts for ongoing training. So it's theoretically possible, and I believe it has happened already, where data is actually put into the AI and actually is then retrieved later by other third parties. Not good. As you can see, with these 6 limitations, generative AI is not the end-all, be-all right now. There's other tools to consider to make it a superpower. Let's next look at machine learning. Machine learning is the practice of taking a set of data and making inferences from it. It's mostly statistical understanding of data sets. For example, given the past 5 years of Christmas sales, what can we forecast for 2025 or 2026 Christmas data? How can we recommend products to customers based off of past user behavior? How can we identify customers that are likely to churn and never come back to our website? Now, what's super cool is you can combine generative AI with machine learning to do some amazing stuff. For example, what if we were to pass customer interactions with your sales team or customer support team, pass it through generative AI and get customer sentiment feelings, then pass this into machine learning as a data set to be able to start predicting which customers are going to be happy with your company and which customers will not be happy with your company. You can also use machine learning to segment customers and then start personalizing to them in a very unique way using artificial intelligence messaging on your website for personalization. So what's different about machine learning versus generative AI? Of course, yes, it is 2 different processes. Machine learning identifies patterns, whether in images or numbers, and it creates a statistical trajectory for those. On the other hand, generative AI creates new content, images or text or even code based off of learned patterns and input prompts. So with that, what does machine learning not do? It doesn't understand things like intent, and that's where generative AI does a much better job with. Machine learning only makes predictions based off of the data given, and it's basically only a numerical analysis tool. Second, machine learning isn't perfect. It's only as good as the training data set that you provide it. And that is one other big difference between generative AI and machine learning. Machine learning is your data entirely. Generative AI is this massive training data by itself. And the other thing with machine learning is it's actually becoming easier and easier to set up your own training setups, which means there's less knowledge of what's happening behind the scenes, which means the data is even less likely to be accurate.
Model trained successfully. Nailed it.
So that's understanding of machine learning in generative AI, but there's a third component to this triad that I think is really important to understand, and that is automation. Tools like N8N and Zapier are the links. They're the chain that binds your e-commerce platform with tools like ChatGPT and or Gemini, and then also with machine learning systems and a database. Like all of this then can fit together. Now, whether or not you choose to go down the DIY route of using these automation tools is entirely up to you. The first 2 segments of this are far more important because you need to understand those pieces of the puzzle, machine learning versus generative AI, and understanding how both of those tie together will allow you to ask very intuitive questions to your software vendors. But if you want to go the DIY route, you need to understand the automation side. The beauty of this type of automation, it's either low code or no code. Drag and drop, put your process in place, you have triggers in there, and you're able to just let this thing do what it wants to do in the background. Of course, once you've edited, making sure it works okay. This allows a series of tasks to run in the background, again, in response to maybe an action taken on your website, maybe an action from receiving an email. The possibilities are limitless, but allows you to get this done efficiently. So with that, as a quick overview, I'm trying to keep this brief. There are 3 key pieces in the AI triad. Number 1 is generative AI. Creates, it summarizes, and it does a really good job of it, and it's only getting better. Number 2 is this machine learning. Taking your data and identifying trajectories or statistical probabilities out of it. Machine learning then ties in with this generative AI to create these statistical probabilities, saying this based off of this data, here's what I believe the outcome to be. Number 3 is automation. Being very, very successful in responding to events that happen and having other events happen based off of what your inputs and outputs are from GenAI and machine learning. So with that, I hope you found this helpful in Ecom Buzz number 25. If you have questions, feel free to email me, joseph@swiftotter.com.